Please welcome Zorawar Purohit with a round of applause.
I think we should clap at the end of the session. Let go first. Am I audible? Usually I'm told I have a baritone and I'm loud enough without a mic. Hi guys, I'm Zorawar Purohit. I'll give you a very quick introduction. Those of you who have laptops, please do feel free to code along. This is something that's been close to my heart. I don't come, I've repeated this story, some familiar faces. I hope they're not bored of my story, but I come from a very different background. I'm a scuba diving instructor and an entrepreneur from Andaman Islands, which is 2,400 kilometers from where we are right now. I lived there after college. I passed out of Venki. I'm not a computer science student. I did political science honors from DU Venki, and I went to the islands in 2012. And the funny part is the island had no internet till 2020. So for me to be here in front of all of you, I think that's the generosity and graciousness of Pi Delhi as a society and some mentors and friends I have made therein. And yeah, I don't want to take too long, but it's important for you to know where I come from. And this is purely out of passion and a pursuit for technology, with which I started learning how to code in 2018. Coincidentally, in 2020, internet came to the island and COVID came to the planet. And that suddenly shut down all my tourism ventures. And you can imagine, right? Without tourists, there is nobody to teach scuba diving, and whatever my businesses in Andaman were came to a absolute standstill. It was miserable, right? And I'm sure it was for not just me, many. But that gave me this 2-year window to pursue Python as a programming language with no specific agenda, just pure joy of learning. And obviously, as you start learning to code and doing things, you want to be able to create something which is shareable, right? Like which has a meaning to your mom or to your friends. Ki kya karta rehta hai pura din, you know, on the computer. Like there has to be some output. And that's where I came across Django, and I realized that as a web application development framework and having some baseline information of Python, which I hope all of us do have, it's a fantastic framework, and it's enabled me not just to create my first few DIY apps at home to feel good, and I think as developers it's very important to feel cool about what you do, because after many error codes, that 1-200 okay is what we live for. It is what I have realized in my small journey so far. So today I'll be taking you through the framework Django, covering some important things which might save you a lot of time if you choose to go down this web dev path. What we'll be building is very simple, something that I would do in my initial days. As of today, I run a technology company called astratex.com, based out of Weaver, Gurgaon, to Horizon. And I'll share my email address and stuff. We are looking for interns and front-end developers. We are now building AI tools. I've worked with some large consulting companies, and I have recently returned from Mumbai, having worked with the CTO or ex-CTO of Tata Group on a real estate prop tech AI first business. So yeah, the framework and the language has really opened a new door for me. And I started, I'm in my early 30s right now. I started writing my first line of code at the age of 28. So that's something I'm sharing, not to toot my own horn, but with all of you to know that it doesn't matter what level you are at, where you are at. Nobody could have had more apprehension about learning to code and being in front of you trying to do a hands-on demo than me. Because I was awfully late, and I was from humanities and arts. So you see how the things don't align, but I hope by the end of this session you find some value, and I can also go back slightly satisfied having achieved this talk. Don't expect too much, but if anything is awfully wrong, please interject. If you know how to do something better, please interrupt and interject. It's an interactive session. And yeah, feel free to let me know if it's not up to your taste. I can always stop early or extend. We'll see how it goes. Cool? So first steps and a bit further, that's the heading. Python Django, explained to you the story, why I'm so involved with it. And let's go a bit further. So What we'll be covering today is PyN, the Python environment. It essentially helps you work on different projects and maintain that project specific Python dependency and versioning. We'll cover when virtual environment, very important for you to kind of isolate your dependencies for a specific project. Many of you know a lot about these things here already. So some of this may not be as important for you, but like I said, for me to have learned about each of them from the background that I come from has been a fascinating journey. So in case I'm boring you with information that you are already very well aware of, please bear with me. This is more of me imbibing my knowledge to myself while at the same time sharing it with you. Next is installing Django, the module and the framework that I'm really fond of, and I think it is going to be, if not already, the Laravel of the future. 75% of the web still runs on PHP today, and Laravel is their web framework. I think Django is there, and I met somebody last year in Dubai in Jitex who was from Meta, and he is one of the founding team members of the framework Django. And the things I heard, they aren't stopping anytime soon. They'll keep pushing the limits with it. Then setting up a simple Django project, how the part I like the most, because how easy it makes it for you to get to your first screen, write your first few views, HTML templates, connect the forms, get a database up and running. That'll be the fun part. Creating models, structure, some of the language that I'll use, like for me models, I do hope to teach this in Andamans at some point to the kids who have not had internet for most of the decades since independence of India. So some of the language that I'll use will be very simplified, may not apply to you, but it's me again practicing how to impart this knowledge better. So models to me are nothing but simple Excel sheets with headings, right? We complicate databases with a lot of theory and a lot of understanding, but ultimately a model and writing a model is nothing but giving labels, defining the type of data that you want to fit under that label, and which is something we've all been doing from a very early age in any kind of a tabular data storage system, whether it's a CSV file or Excel. Next we will come to model forms. Essentially we'll skip the forms.py and we'll see how directly from the models Django has this amazing capability to generate the views that we need. We'll work on only two out of the CRUD, the create, read, update, delete. We'll only do create and delete because I think that delivers the important impact, and you're all wise enough to take that forward then into your own applications and with your own ideas. Routing the URLs, so obviously you are able to reach the different pages. And lastly, we'll come to all-auth. Things will be a bit mixed. We'll go through files. We might touch a few things together at the same time, like settings.py. We'll cover a few of the things. Models, we'll cover a few of the things. But in general, this is what we'll be covering. All good so far? Great. So the modules that we're going to look into is installing Django, .env, and all-auth. This is pretty much all that you're going to need to participate in this hands-on code demo. The files we'll be working with, gitignore again, like I said, I want to share the habits that I have learned. Most of you might have them. It's very important to start with that. Otherwise you end up pushing your environment files, your important keys, and you end up in a much longer process if you don't start with the correct basics. Keeping your credentials in a .env, again, equally important. So you build those right fundamental habits, and these are not applicable to Django. They are, I think, applicable across the SDLC. The files then we'll make maximum contact with our settings.py, where we'll set up everything related to Django, all-auth in the project. Models, where we'll write the simple model for a post. URLs.py, where we'll connect all the URLs and make sure that we are able to route them correctly to the right view. And a few standard templatized HTML files which I've already written. I'll share the GitHub link with you. We'll just pull them down and hopefully, fingers crossed, have something up and running on the screen, right? The commands that we will work with during the hands-on demo is PyN to make sure that we are in the right version. We'll create a virtual environment with the second one you see, Python-m. Start project is something that you use only once. Essentially, it says what it does. Django is quite simple. It starts the new project. Start app is your ability to create different application modules within one Django project. So you could have one app where the user and authentication is defined, and that could be an app within one project called auth. Then say you're building, say if you're building, Facebook, then you can have another app called Timeline. And then Facebook also has a messaging feature. So I find this very nice that you're able to segregate just with one command different apps within one project of Django and build those systems, refine those systems, and kind of have your entire code base by the end of a massive project in a far more maintainable, scalable state. That is what different apps help you do. Creating a super user, essentially we are able to log into the admin, and Django gives you a built-in admin. We'll go through that. We'll understand why create super user is important. Create super user is not users of the app. It is literally a super user who can access the backend and the admin to control the data and get things out. Make migrations important. Again, models, right? You want to set the structure right before you start feeding it data. So that's what make migrations does. Migrate actually creates the DB SQLite 3 database which Django has inbuilt capability for. And I'll take you through in settings.py areas where very easily you can have a weekend build of something very cool, nice, close to your heart. On Monday, you can change 5 lines of code, connect a Postgres SQL database, connect S3 buckets, throw it on an EC2 instance, have an elastic IP, connect it to a domain, and there you go, you have a scalable live application running on AWS. And like I said, for me to have arrived at it took some time, but when I did first time, I was like, my God, this is a superpower. It enables me to solve problems for businesses, solve problems for myself. And if I have nothing better to do on a weekend, then maybe just build something for fun, right? Which is what I hope most of us enjoy doing. I think I've written create super user twice, so we'll skip that. Yeah. And by the end of this session, let's not feel like this. Yeah. So please, let's be interactive. I don't want to be the guy speaking and you all just listening. Feel free to participate and make sure we are not feeling like this by the end. Cool. Shall we begin? I'll keep sharing a few other things also that I have come across in my technology adventures so far. I'm using this terminal called Warp. It's a very cool terminal. I think it's out for Windows. If not, it is going to be. It's AI enabled, so you can type something like, if I didn't remember, it's systemctl's restart Unicorn, but say you're dealing with some kind of technology that you're not very sure of.
Sorry, you have to increase the font size.
Font size? Yeah, sure. Is that better? That's the max I can go to.
You will at the back? It's fine, right?
Or what I can do is I can shift the window up. This makes more sense?
Yes.
Yeah, for now. So Warp essentially is a very cool terminal. I'd like to promote it. It has some amazing features. Example, you want to restart a Unicorn server and for whatever reason you are unable to remember that command. So it can give you sudo systemctl restart Unicorn, nginx, do config files and do many other things. Do check it out. I think Warp is here to stay. What I find the coolest about it is its ability to, let's do a quick, just for example purposes, as you get results in the terminal, you don't have basic text editor abilities, that is the ability to move across words, cut, crop, paste, things that somebody like me at least coming not from the computer science background was very used to, right? Ability to handle text using cut, copy, paste. What regular terminals like iTerm do essentially is they don't enable such abilities. So I don't have an ability to type something here and then essentially copy paste. But in the terminal, if I type something in Warp, I can actually select, move through it just like any other text editor would. Also the results that come out, say you have a major bug in the terminal and you want to copy and send it to a senior developer to get some assistance on that particular issue. So what you can do is go to any block of code where you have a certain result, say and if I click here and do create a link, that essentially takes the entire terminal output. If you go to share and hit create a link, it creates the entire output into one link, and I'm just able to send that link to my senior developers or to anybody I want to take assistance from or share something with. Very cool. You can actually try opening this in a browser yourself, and you'll realize that the entire output is just like it is in your terminal, saving you those extra minutes. You know, you add up. I come from the ocean, so a lot of my proverbs have the water in it, but हम सब ये घर पे सुन चुके हैं, बूंद बूंद से सागर बनता है. So every 5 seconds saved for every such error, you add it up over a lifetime of coding, I think you're saving a lot of time. Now, since the whole demo is not about war, we will quickly move to what we are here for. So we'll create a new project called, I've already created one, so let's just call it PyD demo 1. Okay. This is us creating a basic empty directory where we want to start our project. The next thing that I told you we would discuss is PyN. Now, as you can see, these are the versions on my system right now, the different Python versions. I would like to work with 3.11.4 that I'm on, which is the local, but if I wanted to switch it to say 8, all I have to do is PyN local and you type the version. If it has it in system, great, it will switch to that. It also creates a PyN config file. So what that does is when you exit out of this directory, you are back on your system version. And as you move into different projects, having set a local PyN version, PyN automatically activates that particular Python environment. Really simplifying what things, the glitches that you might end up with if you don't have PyN on your system. So we'll go back. So that's pretty much it with PyN. Anybody has any other questions regarding Python environments? Very simple to use. You install it. Like I said, PyN versions is all you have to do. If you want to set a local version, use the local tag. If you want to set a global version, you set a global tag. That's all. So just to repeat, I'm going to use the standard version. Now, you'll find me using the word Py often. Ideally, it should be Python 3, but then what I have learned over time is I'm a lazy guy. So I try to do as little as possible, and hence everything is set as an alias, and Py refers to Python 3, right? So that is us creating a Python environment within which we will contain all our dependencies for this particular project. Again, it should be source env bin activate. That's how we would activate an environment. But I like aliases a lot, so I've set that to be env, and then saves me again a lot of time, right? Next we want to do is install Django, having activated the environment. I think most of you are quite skilled with this, but don't install Django in your entire system. Please activate the environment and then do pip install Django. So let's see what has shown up. Right now, we just have the Django dependency part of this environment, but it hasn't created anything. So how do we do that? And we can just do Django admin start project. If you remember, this was one of the commands I told you in the presentation we'll go through. So we hit. And now if we see the directory we have, I use something called Ranger. It helps me quickly take you through what it has created. So PyD demo is what it has created. Inside it is another directory, PyD demo, which holds the main files, where the settings, the WSGI server, and the urls.py are. And then we have manage.py, which essentially is already written by Django. In majority cases, in fact 99% of the cases, you will not touch manage.py, but just use manage.py to run the various features that Django enables you. Alright. So let's do that. So I can now do and let's say so let's imagine that we are building a PyDeli website, and hence we are giving the app that particular name. Sorry. running into bugs quite early, huh? Okay, so the reason that wasn't working is because we were not inside the correct directory. You have to have manage.py visible or in the active directory for you to be able to use it, right? And there you go, it works. So now we had PyD demo that came from the start project command, and we have the PyD website, the app that we will be directly working on. Guys, I hope everything is clear so far and I'm not confusing all your tech heads here. Things are in order? Feel free to ask questions. Let's take a moment here and ask questions, because beyond this we'll open VS Code and just start typing the code. We have essentially finished with creating a Python environment, creating a virtual environment, installing Django, starting a project, starting an app. You could say 70% of the heavy lifting is already done for you by Django. So any questions so far? Please feel free. Great. Okay. Just to be clear, we should have a look at what is inside this app that we created, right? So we have an apps.py where we can register different things. We have models.py which we will directly work with. We have views which we will directly work with. We have admin.py because the models that you create here don't show up in the Django admin, so I'll take you through that ahead. And you have something called migrations, right? Which is kind of Django's way of keeping track of all the migration cache files and the migration records on what different databases and what changes have undergone so far. Just for fun, if we were to run the server, which is python manage.py run server, I have an alias for it, which is, any guesses? What somebody as lazy as me would do to python manage.py run server? PMR, right? As simple as that. So, since that port is already in use somewhere, we can So this is the page that you should see automatically. If you're seeing this page, which means Django has been installed correctly and you have been able to run the server automatically, and this is basically a built-in template that comes. It's very nice to be able to do this. If I wasn't talking and imagine wanting to start a new project, I think in about 120 seconds I'm on this page with the server running. Now it's just about going in the files, applying my brain, writing the correct logic, and then using GPT to write the correct front end and fitting it all together, and that's it. You have something up and running. We will do a bit more, but I thought that we should see this page because at the bottom, sorry if some of you are not able to see, just give me a moment. So at the bottom of this page, you have Django documentation, better tutorial, a whole polling app, which at the end of this session, if you are still interested, you can kind of follow up with, and the Django community, which I think all of us should become part of.
Can you just repeat the process in which how you set up the environment of Django in the computer?
Happily, I'm glad somebody asked. That means somebody is listening. Can I just finish this and go back to the terminal?
Sure.
Yeah. So the community part, right? We are here for a PyDelhi event, and I would strongly recommend that please participate in the Django community. I have already explained, so I'll not repeat the story why I am in love with the framework. It's taken me a long way all the way to starting a tech company today, and not necessarily writing the most complex code, but at least being part of you all, right? Part of this fraternity. That wouldn't be possible if communities like PyDelhi and Django communities didn't exist. So if anyone finds any interest, I hope to see you there. Going back to the terminal, should I just do this again?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. So we are going to quickly make a new directory called Django first install. Then we are going to cd into that directory. Django first install. If you already have PyN installed on your system, then PyN local or PyN versions will work. If you don't, I can take you through the documentation. And there's a great article on Real Python, Intro to PyN. I will be putting all the links in one repo which I've already created on GitHub for the entire project I'm doing today. Unfortunately, I've not added the PyN link, but once I'm home, I'll add that also. And the repo is public. So you'll have access to everything that I'm discussing today will be available to you in one GitHub repository. Right? And if you do choose to use it and find any value in it, do give it a star. I have very few on GitHub, right? I think I have way more Instagram followers because of my diving profession and very few stars on GitHub. So I'd like to bring some equilibrium to my life. Going back to the terminal, for you, my friend, your question. So PyN, I'm using whatever is on your computer. Don't worry about it, right? Next, what you want to do is Python. I'll write the full command for you. Virtual environment, and then create the environment here.
First, we need to install that ISMV file. Then the process that you are proceeding towards that really good.
Correct. So if you are not working with many Python versions on your system, you can completely ignore the PyN part. Like I said, some things I've added here which I didn't know when I started. It was actually very recently that I got into PyN myself because I realized that hey, now I'm playing with too many tools. Some 4 years old, some 3 years old, sometimes for nostalgia I want to go see my old code and it's causing conflicts in my system. But if you are not in this situation today, don't over-engineer it, right? Like, I'm not an engineer by profession. I would never make that claim. I'm very happy with my DU life that I had. But I do hear a lot of famous engineers say that one common mistake great engineers make is over-engineering things. Don't install PyN unless you genuinely feel the need for it. Don't dabble in technology. This is a mistake I'm making in my early 30s. Don't dabble in technology for the sake of it because it's an endless rabbit hole. Somebody out there will always keep coming up with a new module, a new framework, a new language, so on and so forth, right? So stick to what you need to solve your problem today and get something out in the world. That's my agenda with this demo also, to do a Django demonstration, to maybe share this idea that it's much easier to actually simplify things, not be a techie, and get something out in the world. And if somebody like me can do that, then imagine those with the well-tuned brain for it, and somebody who's been pursuing that art or skill, whatever you call it, for decades. I think they should be bringing more good to the world, which is tangible rather than theoretical. Yeah? That's just my opinion, in my humble opinion. I don't mean to say anybody is right or wrong, it's just my opinion. So can we continue?
Yeah, sure.
So ignoring PyN command, we are just going to type Python 3 if you have Python 3 installed, which should be the case. If you're on version 2, then that's a separate discussion. Python 3 -m virtual environment venv. Env is kind of what I name it. You can call it whatever you want. You could name it after yourself also. The general tradition is venv. venv. I tend to do venv, right? So I'll hit enter here. And then if you do ls, or if you're in a Windows system, you'll have to use your commands, check the directory, and you should have an environment. Or whatever you named it, the last word should be there. Once it's there, I think on Windows it is env bin activate .bat. It's scripts, right? Yeah. And on Mac we have source. Thanks for that. And on Mac we use the command with source, right? So source env bin activate. And then if an environment actually activates, you should see that little tag added in your command line, right? Otherwise it's not on. So far so good? Great. So guys, this is where we were. We have created a particular app and now we should jump right into our code, right? So code space dot launches VS Code. I think that configuration is available on all the systems. It's agnostic to Windows or being on a Mac. I'll try to keep it on the left. Is it visible? Can I make it bigger?
Nice. Support interact.
Yes?
No, yes, no.
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 It's not visible?
Increase the font.
I've increased the font. Is it better?
Yeah.
I can't see.
Make it bigger.
Okay. Guys, that's too big. This should be okay. If not, you need an eye doctor. I'm joking, like I don't want to walk to the end. You can confirm, is it legible?
Ah.
He doesn't want to go to an eye doctor. I'll make it bigger, guys. It's all one team, don't worry. Okay, so this is where we were, and you remember I told you that we'll just deal with a few files. We're not going to like go all over the Django framework today. We are just doing a small part to get something out and running in the next 25 minutes. Before we jump into settings.py, the directory structure is quite simple. We saw it on terminal, let's see it here. What is PyD demo? Is the main name of what? Did we name PyD demo with start project or start app? Now I'm checking who's actually listening to me. Otherwise, I'm joking, even if you aren't, like that's your prerogative. We did start project, right? Thanks, that's correct. So I have named them the same. It might cause some confusion, but there is a difference, right? PyD demo is the project. And what is the name of the app in this directory structure? Correct. So can we create more projects within a project? If I type Django admin start project inside this, would it work or would it throw an error? It wouldn't, correct. But can we have multiple apps inside a project? Very important to understand this concept. I took some time to understand it, but it simplifies life. You will love writing all the views in one single file, and I did that too about 4 years ago. But then as you start interacting with more experienced developers, you realize how big a fool you are, because the management of that becomes complex. And I was of this opinion that too many directories and subdirectories are more complex than me just writing everything in one file. I had that lens as a newbie. But over time, I have kind of given in that now, it's much easier to click through directories, but at least have the files containing only what they are dealing with, instead of one file bringing the entire Pandora's box to you. Okay. Now in settings, you have everything done by the Django team for you, right? All these apps are already installed. What we want to do is install Auloth, the Django Auloth application, which will help us create a sign up, a login, and in advanced cases with the change of a simple command, you will see it can also send verification emails. It also has social login. So say you have a great idea you create, something that we will struggle with is authentication, right? You want people to be able to log in via Facebook, Instagram, Google, Zoho, whatever. You also want to verify emails to make sure that nobody is writing a script just to bombard your application or to pull you down when you are on your way to success. And these are things that happen in the real world. It's a wicked world. So Django Auloth is my go-to module, and Django Auloth is essentially written by another team, but it has now been in service for about 10 years, since 2010. And it is the primary module or dependency rather for authentication for many giant businesses in the world. So I'm not an expert, but I would say that it's fairly safe for you to use. And yeah, if your idea is obviously going in the direction of making you a millionaire or billionaire, then you can skip it and hire some developers to write your own Auloth module. But till the time you are not a millionaire or billionaire, and you are short on time and you are a one-man army like me, use the module. Okay, makes life easy. Now, should we use the terminal here or go back to Warp? I'm a big fan of Warp, so we'll go back to Warp. Keeps it neat, right? So how can we install the Auloth module? Who's going to give me this answer? That's it. So all we have to do is make sure you're in the correct directory. Make sure you do pip install Django. If I get it wrong, we can always go to the documentation. That's pip install Django Allauth and the app is there. Now comes the interesting part where we actually set it up and that's the beauty. That's it. One line. We installed a module, went to settings.py of Django and wrote one line. Obviously we'll write 2-3 more, but let's start simple, right? And that's it. This app written by a great team is now part of your application and you are completely free to use it. And very quickly, I'll start talking less and coding more. Very quickly we'll see what the power of Allauth is. For that, what we're going to do is we will go to the Allauth documentation. Again, I need it. I'm not going to pretend like everything is in my brain. I do need it. But it's also a great habit for those of you who are here to not GPT things or maybe GPT at end state. Try to go through the documentation. Try to figure out what's going on here. In fact, sometimes if the documentation is confusing, I have started copy pasting the doc into GPT and saying, hey, the developers were too busy coding, so they didn't write a great piece of doc. Explain this to me. But don't ignore the documentation for whatever technology you are taking part in. And nobody would want a shortcut more than I. Like, remember, I started really late. Nobody wants to catch up faster than me. But there is a right way to do things, and there's an incorrect way, a faster incorrect way to do things. Don't choose the latter. And this as a out of some caregiving elderly vibe, maybe I have a few years over to some of you and most of you are in college, I would say that this doesn't just apply to coding. It applies to your life. There is always a wrong way to do something fast and a right way to do something slow. Take the path that is right and slow. It'll take you to a better place in life. Right? Okay. So we are already done with this and now all we're going to do is take the documentation, try to understand, copy paste what we need. So what is it saying? It's clearly telling us that this till here is already defined. It's Django related context here. And these are Django dependencies. However, Allauth as an application requires this from Django, right? So what we can do is we can copy that, go to our templates, and maybe make a good habit of so in case you share this code with somebody else later, you kind of know that, hey, rest is what comes with Django on installing the app. This is the part that I've added to make my life a little bit easier. Next is going to be authentication backend. So we can just copy them and it clearly says, let's read, needed to log in by username in Django admin. Do you want to see what Django admin is before we do this step? Yeah? So we understand what this particular thing is trying to do. The correct way to do it would be Python manage.py make migrations. I do PMK. Yeah, and I'm trying to spread in the world my very lame aliases because I think they are great and they completely make sense with Django. And Python manage.py migrate, please make it PMG, and so that we can have this little community that uses the same aliases around. So first one, PMK, was Python manage.py make migration. It's a command you just have to learn, right? There's no way for us to explain why and how. It's Django's way of doing things. You make a migration first and then you migrate, which was done by PMG command, right? Something I want to share here, often while working with developers who are on a Windows system, I'm on a Mac, I have to run this command, I'll show you. Run syncdb. This happens if I am working on a project and I have some database changes and I send you that code and you download it from GitHub, and if you are ever in this funny conflict where you feel I'm doing everything right but the app is not starting and you've made sure that the DB was deleted, you remigrated everything, even then it's not starting, try this. I found it in some blog somewhere and it's been a lifesaver. Run syncdb, right? I don't think we need it right now. What we do need is, what do we need to log into an admin panel? A super user, right? So we're going to create a super user here by doing python manage.py create super user. I'll leave my name as it is. Email address can be that. And the last one, my password right now is XYZ. And the last one, don't be startled with the red. I used to be really startled when I started, like, my God. You know, you're wired since childhood to not see red in your exam papers and not see red in your diary. And when I started learning to code, the amount of red I have dealt with. Like, I must be the dumbest person in the world to have a screen full of so many errors. But don't worry about these things. It's just saying that, hey, password is too lame, too simple. Do you want to continue? And we'll say, yeah, we want to continue. And I don't know who's using the 8000 port. I think again we are in the. Wait, is the app already running? Yeah. So this is where we were, right? And we just created a super user, and I should do this slowly. Imagine the app that we'll build in, I keep saying 25 minutes, but it might take 35, right? But imagine this to be your regular web application built with Django. Obviously the index page will be whatever you want the template to be. How do we log into the admin? Is nothing. You just go to the URL and do a /admin. That's it. And here if I type the username which we decided on the terminal, right? And I type that password, and boom, you have a ready to go Django admin. How this is helpful is when you write big models and you want to, you haven't yet gotten to the CRUD part of things where you want to like actually test out your models, play with it, add functionality, add signals, do some pre-save work, whatever you want to do. You can kind of log into the admin, write your stuff and start testing it out right away. Okay? So that's all the admin panel does. Right now the users you see here are created from the Django app. The first user in fact you see is the one we created, right? That's what we went and created. The inbuilt user model is also something fascinating we should discuss very quickly, briefly. The inbuilt user model has built-in active status, staff status, admin status. You can assign groups, role-based access, RBAC, role-based access control. So you can have groups, permissions. Example, you are building something for your college, right? And you want the professor to have HOD, the head of department, to have a certain capability. And then the assistant professors to have a certain capability and students to have a certain capability. You don't have to really go down and do a lot of code writing for this. Once you've built your application and if you've built your models right, you come to Django users, create a group, and Django is very smart at reading the models. So it will kind of give you different lines in these boxes here, which I think it's already doing below, right? So I could create a group and I could assign a permission, say I only want people to be able to add something and not delete. This is an example, don't take it literally. But you see, can add log entry, can add group, can add permission. I could just plug all of these and give only these permissions to the user without me writing the code for this entire admin infrastructure. That's something that Django brings to you. Alright? Shall we go back? Coming back to where we were at the authentication backends, and now let's read this line again and it will make a little more sense. Django contrib.auth.backends.model backend is required or needed rather to log in by username in the Django admin, which is what we did. Because if we use all auth, I'll show you, we have capabilities in all auth to kind of say that, hey, I don't want a username, I want emails to be the username. Because most modern applications we tend to write our email, right? to log in. But at the same time, you don't want to break the dependency or rather the structure Django has. If you switch it to emails, you might lock yourself out of the admin panel. That's a very sad situation. You built an app, everything's going great. You installed Django Allauth, switched it to email verification only. But now Django admin is not letting you log in. He's like, because you said that let's do everything with email. Hence that line. And then Allauth specific authentication backends such as login by email is what the second line achieves. So I hope I have been able to explain these two to some degree. Again, you have GPT and better minds than me here who will be able to dive into this and help you out, right? So where are we putting this? In models.py, right? One person is listening. Guys, are you all here? Yeah, sure. Okay. So where are we putting this? Let's participate a little. In models.py, urls.py or settings.py? Settings. Thanks. Let's go back to the documentation and see what all Allauth. Now, if you remember, the only app that I have added is this. But the documentation is clearly giving us a very long list. We won't go through the whole, but we have to select the 2-3 appropriate ones to have this up and running. So we obviously need the inbuilt Django contrib.auth and messages because it needs to interact. It uses messages to give you. I'll show you in the actual template to let you know that you are logged in or do you really want to sign out, and all that happens with the Django's inbuilt messages module. Hence we need that. Social accounts I'm not using today, but feel free to go home. Like if you want your Facebook, and it's a long list, right? You have access to all those social logins with one single module, and that I think is fascinating. I would say that we just go with these and we skip the rest and we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, we can always come back. So I'll go back to installed apps. We'll follow the good habit of saying Allauth module requirements below. Guys, any questions so far? We're just going through the documentation and pretty much copy pasting, right? There's not much.
I think we have a question here.
Please.
When we have added the all from template में जब हमने add कर दिया है उसके बाद क्या करना है?
टेम्पलेट में क्या ऐड कर दिया है? जो लास्ट सेटिंग हमने कॉपी पेस्ट करी है, मीन आफ्टर दैट दिस पार्ट आई थिंक व्हाट यू आर रेफरिंग टू इज दिस टेम्पलेट्स, राइट? Take it as it is and put it in your settings.py. Actually, let me simplify it. Everything here we are doing is all being done in one place. Settings.py. So first step, template. Second, we took the authentication backends and we put it in our settings.py. Make sure the indenting is right? You know Python is very specific about it, so don't kind of like put it on the left and right. It has to be on a new line, it has to be left indented. To answer your question, I can give a pause for a minute. Get this part right. After templates हमें ये करना है, authentication. And all of it is available on docs.allauth.org. In case you want to open the Allauth documentation on your tab right now, like the one I have, it's on docs.allauth.org. You good, my friend? The part we are doing after this is out of this massive list of Allauth apps which we could incorporate, we are only taking 4. Which 4? The first 2, I explained the reason for it. And we are going ahead with Allauth an account because we are creating a simple account where I have the ability to sign up and I have the ability to log in. And then as you move forward, you want your your Facebook Meta login or your Google logins, you can use the social apps. But I'll give you a fair idea of how easy it is. It's just plugging that and giving it the necessary credentials for those OAuth enabled applications. Are you with me so far? Yeah? Okay. So we keep scrolling down, you can see the list. I was very proud one day because Zoho is a made in India company, right? And somewhere in this list is Zoho also. So that was fascinating to me that the Allauth team has kind of, there you go, right? So you have a Zoho login also built in. Two ways it made me feel good. A, because a Indian tech company is part of the Allauth module, and B, I was fascinated by these engineers who build things like Allauth. The level of, we are still trying to solve syntax and comma and get the right files, and there are people who are, like it's second nature for them, right? The code is now become a reflex. Their conscious mind is actually so aware of the world that they can find out that, hey, there's a popular company and let's kind of incorporate this. I would love to get to that level of decision making sometime before I turn 40, I hope. And no, I'm not that old. I know the thought running through your mind. Now we come to middleware, and we see again very nicely there's a line that says add this particular account middleware. So without wasting any time,
There is an error in your line number 45. After line number 45. There should be a closing error.
that would have thrown it to us, I think, Miran. Anyone who's copied?
Space time.
No. I think that's my Pylint giving me the error, yeah. I have somebody from this community who's forced Pylint into my system, and it's made my life miserable because now I'm confused between what real errors are and then certain headings and tags are missing. Thank you. Please do participate and point out if you see anything else that is wrong. So we were at, let me go back to the documentation. We're in the middleware setting, and we have put just one line here. Let me know if you've added this line to middleware and we can move further ahead. All good? Yeah?
If it's not all good, you can.
Yeah, feel free, guys. Even I'm learning with you, so I'm happy to, we don't have to rush through this. We can just get whatever we are doing right. I think pretty much it's been copy paste, so should. All right, guys. Just for fun, what we'll do is we'll go back and see if everything's in order. And there you go. Something is not. So line 116. There are these dots that you get from the documentation if you copy paste, which is why it's always a good idea. Why I did this is it's always a good idea to keep going into your manage.py folder, be in the right Active Directory, and type that command, python manage.py run server. As long as, and please listen to this very carefully, as long as debug is equal to true, it's again a Django setting. It's already there. The default is true. As long as it's true, it's going to give you very nice error messages even on the browser, and we'll go through it shortly. But remember, if you're ever going into production and deploying this, you have to convert this into false and then have your error templates rendered instead of Django's inbuilt error messages. But again, one word, right? Look at the beauty of it. Debug equal to true, and Django helps me through all my problems, giving me very detailed insight into what went wrong, where it went wrong, and sometimes even guiding me on what I can do to improve it. Alright? There is something very critical missing in the installed apps. If somebody can point it out. We've added Allauth. It's not related to Allauth, it's something much simpler in Django. Inside our project, so I'm kind of hoping that somebody will spot that. So inside our project, you remember in Django we created a project, we created apps, right? What is the name of the app in this project? Read, the folder is right there for you. Correct. Now notice we got all auth and we installed it into the apps, right? But when we created this new app PyD website, have we informed settings.py that, hey, look, I'm not just running with your standard Django project. I have created this extra app and I want you to keep track of it. Do you see that setting anywhere?
No.
So hence the server is not running and we are getting that small error, right? So let's try adding it. How do we add this? Obviously, GitHub Copilot is doing quite a bit of the job. You just take the name of that app and type it out. So it's as simple as that's it. In fact, adding the all auth modules took us more lines than adding a natively created app. So if I created 100 other apps, all I have to do is take the name of that app and put it in installed apps settings.py, and now Django is fully aware of what it has to keep track of. So guys, just to keep my life easy and not to waste your time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I did last night, and that's quite tested and structured, right, except for the app. And this is what we're going to put in our settings.py file. For your sake, this code is available. I'll just share the link with you. Let me first pull this here. How much time do I have?
Technically it's 2 minutes, but people want you can go.
Wait, the first one was a bit confusing. Technically?
It's 2 minutes.
Guys, should we continue? I think we should at least get to one page up and running. Some of them seem to be coding with me. As long as the rest of you are okay with it. Yeah? Great, thanks. So what I've done is I've essentially taken all auth account, social account and social providers Google, and I did this for sending a verification email to myself last night. And we're just taking this and plugging it into our app. And if you see the native app that I created last night while making sure that I don't waste too much of your time was the same as the one we've put there, which is PyD website. Now, I could wrap this in 2 minutes, but we'll go a little slow. Let's quickly see, we'll compare the two code bases, and this primarily is for my sake that we have added the necessary templates. Have we? Yes, we've added the necessary template. We don't need to touch the database, we'll go with the SQLite 3 as it is. We have added the authentication backends. A bunch of settings out of many, which I can show you here. If you go to configuration, you have the various settings you can put in settings.py to achieve different things. You can specify accounts, adapters, whether a verification email should be sent, whether a username should be mandatory. Do you want a username and email both to be enabled for login or only one of them, so on and so forth. But instead of going through the entire list, I'll leave you to read this in your own time. And for the sake of the community, what we'll do is we'll just take the settings that I have identified to be essential. And once I paste them, I can take you through them, right? So this is a default autofield called DjangoDB models big autofield. I see it twice, which will throw an error, so let me remove it. It should already be there. Session cookie secure should be true for authentication module to work properly. The CORS, the cross origin, has to be true again for the all auth module to work properly. If you were just working on Django and building something for yourself, you wouldn't need this. Not in the development stage on your local machine, right? Similarly, the other two commands you see are for the auth module to work properly on your system. It is particular about the allowed hosts and how it sends that verification email out, and it also lets you click it and log back into your system. And for that purpose, these make life easy. Otherwise, you can run into errors and learn the hard way, which I did past few days and especially last evening. The email backends are something that we will not be using, so I'll comment this out, but this is if you want all auth to be sending things out, which means Someone comes to your application and types xyz@gmail.com, and then xyz@gmail.com receives an automated email from the AllAuth module, and then that user has to click that link and only then they can log into your application. This is something we are all very used to when we use websites and web apps built by a large team. But the whole idea of this talk is to let you know that AllAuth kind of brings all of that in a platter to you. And you can have that degree of authentication and verification and say a professional state to whatever you have built out there, right from the beginning. Okay. And yes, if we were going to use the backends, you see this command os.environment. For that, you would have to install another package called python.env. And it's as simple as find.env and load.env. But since we are not using this, we won't be installing that package. But keep in mind, your secrets should be outside in a file called .env, and settings, if, just to give you an example, I should do this. Yeah, so I'm not going to type the actual values here, but assuming I put actual values over here, settings would try to find them via os.environment, and it wouldn't unless you have installed this module called python.env. I know and I hope some of you will go home and try this, so I'll just do it for you. And that's it. That's all it is. Okay. And how you would load that is right here on top. You take the find and load.env, import it from the main module.env, and then kind of feed the find.env function into the load.env. And that's it. Then wherever you want to pull a key from that .env file, all you have to do is os.environment, and you have your secrets nicely contained outside your main code repo. Okay. Now I know it's going to throw some error, but let's try. Now when I try to run the server, it's again saying that, hey, you've added some new things and there are 10 unapplied migrations. I think we've covered this twice already, so quickly can someone tell me how we could do this? Let's not get into my aliases, we'll just do it properly for everybody's sake. First comes migrate or make migrations. And next will be, and that's pretty much done. And now we can do should we go back to admin and just see what has changed? What AllAuth has enabled us with? We were here a while back, right? About half an hour back we were here. But now as you see that there are email addresses, this part is already there, right? But you have social accounts, all the necessary models and structures created by AllAuth for you, email addresses and so on and so forth already created for you. For the paucity of time, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to the code base that I've written last night because I want to take you through the pages. I don't think we have an Animesh Ishan can confirm. I don't have the time to write the models, the views and connect the URLs. It will take too long. So this is still hands-on. I'll take you through each line of code, but instead of, like I said, I come from a different background, so even I'm a bit glitchy. And I think the best developers in the world are glitchy because that's why we keep jumping around to documentation. I'll save your time by taking you through what is perfectly set up on my system. Yeah. So essentially this is the application that is running on Allauth. I have not written a line of code to actually do the verification or the authentication part. It is all being handled by that module. Let's quickly see how it works. In fact, we should start with sign up, right? So any random email ID. Should you guys want to take part in some such projects, info@astratex.com is where you can apply for your internship in this small venture that I'm running right now. And when I say small, I think we are doing quite okay with the number of projects and the kind of clients we are dealing with. Obviously, the team is small, and the potential input of work that I see in the next financial year is substantial, especially thanks to the people who have joined me so far. And half of what I'm sharing with you regarding PyM or these modules or working with state-of-the-art new AI models like Llama 2 and others is all happening, yes, because of my pursuit, because I want to do this, but it's also these people who are coming around me and joining me in spite of knowing that I don't come from this deep tech background, but kind of giving me a helping hand and a supporting hand. So info@astratex, if you are one of those people who wants to come participate with a oddball like me, trying to build technology without actually being from the deep depths of tech, I could certainly use some brilliant minds. I do have certain other strengths that I bring to the table, so I'm sure it will be mutually beneficial, right? Any username, let's just go with ATZ, password. Allauth is particular, unlike the admin where you can create a lame password and just hit yes to force accepted. Allauth will point out errors, and it's kind of giving you very clear commands that you have to have a password aligning with these attributes. So let's see if it works. And it verified and has logged me in. Now if I try to click or say on top, go to accounts, login, you see it doesn't jump. These are little things that you would otherwise write code for, right? If user dot authenticated route to index page, if user dot authenticated equals false, take him to the sign up page, so on and so forth. The rabbit hole only goes deeper. But all those are pretty much easily contained over here. To end this, guys, I promised you post and create ability, right? So let me quickly take you through that. And then we'll stop there. So only one model is written here, a post model, and it basically has, it imports from DjangoDB models, and you create a class and assign it models.models. You create a title, and while creating Django models, I really find this very cool, and for those of you coding for many years since childhood, you might not find it cool, I do. That assigning character fields, text fields, foreign keys, many-to-many fields, one-to-many fields, all of that basically finishes here. In fact, your post-save methods, other logics that you want to write, you don't have to go, those of you who deal with Django, you don't necessarily have to go and write them in views. You can write as much of what you are going to do with your database right here in your models.py file, right? What you go and do in views, and again, I'll show you the forms. I had written them, I've commented them out. So we aren't using these. We aren't using the forms. What we are using is model form. Again, a Django's built-in ability to understand what models are, saving you the time to not go and then type the same inputs, because what generally would happen is, I have a title and content, now I would go create a form. Again, I would tell the form that, look, I want to take a title and a content. Then I'll come to the views and I'll say, hey, look, take the form, take the title. And I find Django as a framework to be a great promoter of dry. Do not repeat yourself. So you write the model, go to the views file, and import some generic views from, again, within Django. You see all of them start with Django except for the models part, which means I haven't written that piece of code. None of you have to write that piece of code. Django comes, batteries included, is as they put it, right? So .views, .generic, .edit, and then I've taken the create view and delete view. I have imported login required for that simple decorator login required is why we were not able to arrive at the index page. Even when I typed localhost :8000, it took us to the sign up page. That's all happening because of one single decorator. Then comes our index view, which is what we are rendering out here. This entire page is coming from those two lines, right? How it is able to generate these different posts, let's just quickly create one. So, demo done. Hope it was okay. Will get better. It's a note to myself. Huh? And as you can see that it's kind of showing up here, and having written the delete view, we can delete these and go back and create these, and all of this is essentially happening with that much code from line 9 to 24. Your entire ability, in fact, this is a full-fledged application. I hate the UI before you say that. Somebody can improve that, right? But if this was not a post, if you wanted to create a topic board for your subjects, or for pet care, or for social work, or for whatever it is that you want to go out there and create, what you've seen today, obviously in a much more relaxed pace and a refined manner, using the all-auth module, better models written, using the model forms ability to directly generate those forms, and writing a bunch of views using the generic edit views. All of you today are capable of going out there, finding a problem in the world that has to deal with data that requires a certain amount of logic that you as developers are capable of writing. Use a framework like Django, throw it on AWS, it gives you $1,000 free for the first year, and start getting things out there, even if they are lame, even if they are nonsensical. That was primarily the main agenda of somebody like me coming here and giving this talk. As you see, we ran into a few bugs, we read the documentation, we copy pasted from the code that I ran at home. But the point is, if I deploy this and if one user also finds value in it, I have great sleep, right? I have a sense of satisfaction as a developer for having nothing 1 hour back to having a complete authentication system and credibilities in my application, and that application could be anything. And as you dive deeper in this skill, I'm realizing that superpower is the right word, because these abilities can very easily be applied to store and create technology for the miscreants of society, right? Or to cause harm. So whatever you've learned here today, or whatever it is that you pursue or choose to do ahead, my request to you would be that don't be distracted with only learning. Try to get projects out there in the real world. They should be living on a HTTPS domain. Even if it's a to-do list, even if it's a complex web app, try to cover that entire journey and bring it to a HTTPS domain. Share that with your friends, not ngrok links generated from your system or cool demos given in PyDelhi seminars. No. Try to get an actual application out there in the world. It will teach you many other lessons which you need to survive in this industry, because writing code is one part, infrastructure is another, scalability is another, and eventually money, right? Finding the users, having sustainable infrastructure costs, these are the things that make great entrepreneurs or great technologists, as we recognize some of them in the world today. It is not just writing code all alone on your system. It takes a bit more than that. So I hope I have been able to convey a few of the right things here. That's it from me. Thank you. Over to you, Sean.
Any questions for Zorawar? Okay.
Please feel free. Anything you want to know?
Could you talk about your company a little bit more? Maybe.
Happily. Actually, Thank you for bringing that up. I should have thought of that myself. Like I said, I'm still new to this. By the way, guys, this was my first hands-on code demo ever in life. Ever. Thank you. And I hope to do more of these. Was it okay between us now that it's done? You were able to get something, or was I like all over the place? I'm very okay with straightforward feedback.
So I would suggest that for a beginner Django tutorial, right, All-Auth is not the correct library to choose. Something like the Poles app, the official Django tutorial, or something like the Django Girls tutorial would be better suited for an audience who is not familiar with Django, right?
Makes sense.
You showed models, like you've shown parts of Django, right? The parts that make Django, but we didn't go into details like what models actually are and how do they actually work. So going through a beginner-friendly tutorial rather than focusing on the all-out part.
Got it.
That is my suggestion for you.
Agreed. Fully accepted. Any more, guys? Because the reason I'm here all the way from Gurgaon is to get this feedback. So please let me know. I think that's a very good point that Ishan's made. That, but just to give you an idea that I come from outside this whole ambit, so sometimes I'm very confused on the crowd I'm addressing. How much will they know? That question bothers me more than it bothers you. I'm like, am I just going to make a fool of myself discussing, like Python M, virtual environment और DNV सब हंस रहे होंगे मन में कि bro हम तो बचपन से लिखते आ रहे हैं environment को क्यों बता रहा है अभी आके. So I don't know where you are, who you are, but that feedback helps.
That the solution for that is to always ask first.
And to get
an idea of
gauge
the audience.
Fair enough. So I think what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to take this passion of mine further. I'll get into the company part, but taking Ishan's input, I am going to do some Django tutorials on YouTube, and that's my conviction for myself, because I think when you are sharing knowledge, you imbibe it deeper in your head. I learned this in my previous job as a scuba diving instructor. Right, I teach people in the water, but teaching over 7-8 years, today I'm rated as a platinum pro in the diving industry in India, and I realized over the years that as I was teaching decompression theory or gas mixes, I was getting really good at it. It was as if my brain was trying to create its own neural networks and paths to kind of relay that information accurately. And because students ask you a lot of questions, you don't want to be in this awkward place where you can't answer. Your brain forces you to kind of hold on to that information in a better way. So, yeah. This is the organization I'm running, astratex.com. The projects we've done about 40 odd projects so far. You can see the work. We have deployed some applications to iOS and App Store. Quite a few. Chatali Chatta is the most recent project we've done. This I'm very proud of is a Django backend. Is sitting on AWS EC2 instance, has a Razorpay connected to it. They are making about 12 grand a day. She has 450,000 followers on Instagram and around the same on YouTube. I met her husband in WeWork, and I was honest about what I do, and he said, sure, can you like build my wife, she's an influencer, a course selling website. And I took on the challenge, and there's just one other developer with me. So the entire backend was 90% written by me, 10% assistance I do need, and it's okay to take help. And the front end obviously was written by my buddy, and yeah. So that's running on Django, and I'm sorry, but it loads really fast, and I like Django. Right? It's on a T2 micro, and these are the projects that we've completed so far. Have a look sometime. Something that I'm working on right now. Sorry, I'm taking a minute extra. I'm just out of excitement. I hope it works. So this was my nightly build day before yesterday, and it's running on Replit. So took GPT and kind of fine-tuned it, and it's not just giving it the initial prompts and other things. This front-end backend is fully written by me. It's on a Flask server running on Replit. But what I have what I'm proud of is I was working at it for a while and I tried to give it prompts and saying, here, don't answer anything outside Andaman. Because as you know, I'm an entrepreneur in Andaman. I have a eco-friendly resort on an island called Havelock. We're built with 500,000 recycled plastic bottles. And I run a travel company called GoAndamans.in. Actually, I got into code to just fix my website. Because somebody didn't treat me very nicely in 2017 who was a developer. So I thought, okay, you know what, I'll just get into this myself. But then the bug bit me. Anyways, what I have now been able to do is scope it. So if I say, what about Thailand? Yeah. So it is the entire power of GPT, large language model, but scoped down to answering only Andaman based questions. And these are the kind of projects, if you apply for an internship, you will be working on at AstraTex. Basically, I took the customer data set of all interactions that my human staff has conducted in the past 9 years with real human beings, and we fed it and fine-tuned a model out. And now we will be plugging this into our travel website. So those are the kind of projects we do. I hope that gives some idea. And if you want to keep track, ASTRATECHZ, right? A to Z. Actually, someone had taken AstraTech already, so I had to force that Z in there.
I work in the same company which you are in.
Really? AstraTech? Oh, you're part of AstraTech?
Yeah.
Dude, they took the better domain, so I had to force a Z.
Made a 3JS website, if you see.
Which one?
3JS is a framework
Yeah, but
for 3D models. So they made website.
you're talking about the JavaScript library, 3JS?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they actually, I had also applied for internship, so they gave me a task for 3JS related.
Mm-hmm.
So I also built a 3D model type. So there was an animation using particles system.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Would you like to do more of it? If you ever feel like it, please write to me. Yeah, I would love to. Like I said, I would love to learn everything you guys carry in your minds. Like अगर मैं छुट्टी लेके खाली यही कर सकता अगले 2-3 साल जीवन के तो मैं वही करता. But bread and butter, right? Got to do some other things. So that's AstraTex, guys. Please do apply on GitHub. Before I go. So this is a public repo. My handle on GitHub is EngagePy. It's fairly simple. EngagePy, right? ENGAGE Py. And the repo is called PyD Django Demo 1. And pretty much everything that we covered today, the settings we applied, and that page you see, the index page, which GPT wrote for me, right? Even that is available in the repo, so feel free. That's about it. Anything else? Anyone? Thank you. Thank you so much.